I have a theory about why Black women and white women are having such a hard time getting along, and it starts with a story. When I first started teaching, I was in a teacher training program with 3 other women. 2 of them were Black and 1 of them was Indian, and we started teaching at the same school, the same grade, at the same time. One of these women, a Black woman, completely excelled. She did so much better than I did at literally everything. Classroom management, her test scores were high. She was excellent at literally everything. And something about her excellence didn't sit right with me. I just didn't feel good about it, and I couldn't figure out why I didn't feel good about it. It was internalized, but I didn't know that yet. So I had to sit with this idea of her being better than me and trying to figure out why it didn't feel good and feel comfortable for me. And of course, at the time, I didn't know that I needed to do the work of anti-racism, so I didn't think it was possibly because I could have internalized racism. I had to do a lot of study and thought about myself and what could possibly be making me feel this way about this woman. And here's what I discovered. Most of the media that I had consumed up to that point in my life had white people as the central characters. And the shows and other media that I consumed that had white women at the central characters often had Black women as the side characters. These Black women's role in these movies was to assist the white women, support the white women, advise the white women, but never to rise above the white women. Even shows that were about Black women, like The Help, had white women as the central character and the Black women as supporting characters. So I internalized the idea that Black women were there to support me and to advise me, but not to rise above or become better than me. And that's why when this Black teacher was way better and more talented than me, I felt some kind of way about it. Now, I'd imagine lots and lots more white women have also internalized the same idea, and that's why they feel okay stealing Black women's content and not giving them any credit, because the Black women are just there to advise them anyway. But most Black women are natural leaders. Society has forced them to become leaders. And so we need to step aside and let them lead, even if it means checking our privilege and letting them lead us.
She was using the term internalized racism. You dey whine me ni. Let's stop beating about the bush and call a spade a spade. Yeah, you were a racist. I mean, good for you for coming to the realization that you were and now deciding to do the anti-racism work on yourself. But, moving forward, let's be using the appropriate terms, please. This dynamic she just shared is not new at all. It's something that have been happening for years now. I mean, she might be one of the few persons that have come out openly to say, oh, well, this is something that I feel. But we know it's not a new concept. We know there are many out there just like her that feels the exact same way. The dynamic of a white person feeling intimidated, sad, angry because a Black person is, doing better than them in life. It's not new. It has been happening for years. Like I said, this is why when you even look into Black inventions, for example, you would see that there were lots that were stolen from Black people. Right? You look into African American history, you would see how various African American cities and towns, booming cities and towns, were burnt down, flooded, and turned into lakes because the African American people were doing well for themselves. They were successful, right? White folks saw how successful the African American people were in their cities and in their towns, and they were angry. They were pissed. They were jealous of them. So what did they do? They swamped in and burnt down the place, flooded down the place, killed the people, destroyed everything the African American people had built because they cannot stand the sight of Black success. It's sinister, diabolical, devilish behavior. It's not normal. And these issues goes way back even to during colonial times, how they just cannot stand us having nothing. They came on this continent and the havoc, the wreck, the destruction that they brought with them to this continent. You read about the kingdom of Benin and the city they had then, and let's not talk about the wall of the city that is recorded to be greater than the wall of China, right? And how everything was brought down by these folks. You go to Mali and they have the same history there, how they have wars and stuff of theirs that were destroyed. Across the African continent, they were doing the exact same thing, destroying everything the African people had built. And after destroying like that, they still, hence why their museums are filled up. It's all given. If it's not us that have it, no one should have it. This is why nobody can convince me that white folks were more progressive than black folks or any other group for that matter. Because how the hell do you claim to be so progressive, but then when we take one look at your museums, there is nothing of yours there? Oh, how I wish I'll be alive to see the day every group gets back their artifacts. Oh, Baba, oh, I may never need to eat again because the sight of those empty museums would fill me up for life. An African American sister once said this on TikTok, that they could not compete because they did not compare. And this saying is very accurate, hence why they had to use violence to get all they wanted. And that saying from our sister is still applicable till date. They still cannot compete because they do not compare. Hence why they can't leave people alone and let them thrive till date. Hence why when they see other people doing better than them, they feel a certain way.
I have a theory about why black women and white women are having such a hard time getting.
I have a theory about white people who decide to theorize their dislike for black people as if the answer isn't just plain old race. Black women and white women aren't having a hard time getting along. White women are, black women are trying to navigate through spaces. And unfortunately, they have to deal with people like you who decide that it's necessary to theorize your dislike for black people instead of just saying, yeah, it was plain up race. And then to follow that up with that you saw in the media that white people were the main character and black women were the side characters. I mean, doesn't art imitate life? You didn't learn it from media, you learned it from life. Why do you guys shift the blame? Why can't you just, you don't even say in general that you said you internalize, and that feels like a symptom of white guilt, the over theorizing and then not just being able to say, I was being raped.
Something about her excellence didn't sit right with me. I just didn't feel good about it.
It was so refreshing to listen to that her TikTok. Take some time to listen to all of it. So there she was exposing how when she walked with a black woman and an Indian, the black woman excelled in everything, but something about it didn't sit right with her because she had been programmed to see the black woman beneath her. Now here's my own personal experience in corporate America. I've interviewed with people who I was more qualified than. They were interviewing me to come in as a junior. I could perceive that they felt threatened. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. White people. I've also worked in places where, because I'm African and dark-skinned, whenever I said something, as a coach that I was, whenever I suggested a way forward, the manager, one, was Egyptian, white. He would push it under the rug. He would openly reprimand me and tell me not to make changes. Then somebody else, who was not a coach, who I was coaching, would suggest the same thing. 2 people, white people, and then he would take their suggestions. It happened over time and it felt like gaslighting. I became so uncomfortable that I went to the HR. Of course, HR was white and nothing was done about it. So, this is something that needs to be talked about, especially when people are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. There's a bias that is in there somewhere that when you realize you have that bias, like she has done, you go and work on yourself. Many people don't. Now, don't get me wrong. I've also worked in a team where 2 people were very aggressive, a man and a woman, white woman, a white man and a white woman. And they would be so loud when they're discussing. Now, when I did the same thing, the white guy would say, I don't want to talk about this. I'm done. The white woman would do the same thing. But when it's between them, it was okay. Yes, there was a white guy who on my team told me, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. Sometimes I don't know why they do this. And as a white male, I know I don't have to do anything to move forward. I appreciate what you're doing. He took some time out to acknowledge that. So for those people who are excelling, who have been invited to the table, who are dark-skinned, and they think these things don't exist, please, they do. She's told her story. Please listen to it.
I have a friend in the UK who's in the sports industry. Wait, do they call it the sports industry? Whatever. So I have a friend in the UK and he's a referee, right? And sometimes he shares with me the extra stuff he has to deal with just because he's black, just because he's African, right? He has to be extra of everything for him to keep his position, for him to even think about getting a promotion, things that his colleagues that are white don't have to do. I don't know if white people realize that they low-key glorify mediocrity in their community. And the adverse effect of this for them, right, is that they become less and less qualified, but they don't even know it because they don't have to strive to be better. They don't have to do all this extra stuff that black people or people of color have to do just so they could be considered for the position or for the job or something, right? So over time, what they don't know that they are doing to themselves is that they are making their community not be the best at the end of the day, because now black people have to strive, do all this extra stuff, and when you have to do all of this, you are bettering yourself, your character, your resilience, you're becoming stronger, you are learning more with the experiences you are doing. So they do all of this to make themselves feel to make life easy for themselves. But what they don't realize is that they are lazing themselves out. If lazing is a word, right? Whatever. Not my language, I don't care. Presently in South Africa, the white people there are screaming reverse rate to the system. Why? Because the playing field in South Africa is now being made equal. Now, white people now have to compete. Now they now have to have talent. They lived in a white controlled system for years where they did not have to do anything extra or be extra better to be great. Now it's post-apartheid. The playing field is being leveled and these people are screaming reverse rate to the system. These people are now realizing that they cannot compete because they do not compare. Why? Because they have been living the soft life where nothing was required of them. All these years, all they had to be was white to be great. But now they are coming to the sad realization that they'll be needing more than that if they want to make something for themselves in post-apartheid South Africa.
And something about her excellence didn't sit right with me. I just didn't feel good about it.
I really appreciate that white teachers' bravery, honesty, and transparency, because it's about time we start having this conversation about white teachers who are jealous of black teachers. And I have experienced this a lot during my career. I'm licensed in 5 areas. 4 of them are teaching licenses and 1 is a school administration license. And I've had a job in every single one of them. And in many of the roles I've had, I've been the only black person in that role. I've been the only black librarian in a whole entire school district. I've been the only English as a new language learner teacher for a whole entire school district. I've been the only black teacher in a large English department. And when I was excelling, people were jealous. They were jealous of my classroom management. They were jealous of my standardized test scores. They were just jealous of things, and it made no sense to me. When I was a school administrator, I was a tier 2 administrator. So think assistant principal, dean, that type of thing. Only black administrator, everyone else was white. I was the only person that had an effective evaluation during our first evaluation. And the response was, oh, we need to change the evaluation tool. So everyone else didn't do well. And instead of figuring out how do we bring them up, we're going to lower the bar. And that's what I've experienced during my career. When there are teachers that are mediocre, instead of helping them get better, the load gets shifted on to teachers who are excelling. And many times that's the black teacher. Whether it is you get all the kids with a difficult behavior because you can manage the class, whether you get the kids who can't read because other people don't know how to close those reading gaps, you get those students. So not only do you have a white teacher being jealous of you, hating on you, giving you shade, now you got to pick up their work that they're not doing. And so you wonder why there's this mass exodus of black teachers, or you feel like they're hopping around because they're tired. We're tired. And it doesn't stop there, because she also mentioned stealing stuff. When I was a literacy coach, I was asked to proofread this district level literacy presentation. And because I was a coach, I was part of this presentation. I found my own stuff that I created being used by another coach who submitted it, and she cut my name off the footer. And let me tell you, I had a meeting with her. I called her to my office and I gave her the business. And I told her, if you ever email me, don't you ever call me, lose my number, don't come to my office again. But instead of you taking the time to say, hey, Shantae, can you help me with this? And instead of you improving yourself, you're going to steal. And then you're going to get an attitude. The jealousy that some teachers have who are mediocre is absolutely ridiculous, first of all, and it's sad. And I guess I should add on a few more things that kind of just popped into my head. The one thing is that when teachers are mediocre and they don't improve, I know I said like it hurts them, but the main person getting hurt is the students, because then they have someone who doesn't have the skills to help them grow. So what am I currently doing? Right now, I'm a full-time education consultant. I also supervise student teachers, and I do education consulting for several different types of organizations. So education-based organizations that are not necessarily schools, different types of schools, private, public, all types of schools. And what is interesting are the white tears. So like I don't know how to say it without coming out and saying it. Some white teachers have a difficult time having a black woman tell them that what they are doing isn't sound and that they need to change and get better. They have a really hard time with that. But they're not going to come and say that they have a hard time with that. They're going to cry. They're going to do all the things. And my very first year of teaching, that's when I started seeing white teachers cry. And I'm just like, so by now, I've been in education almost 2 decades. By now, I'm like so unbothered and unfazed. I'm like, and I can even see it happening, because this is how it starts. Their neck gets all red, their face gets all flushed, they get all jittery, and then they start throwing stuff out. And then my favorite is they'll hit you with something that has nothing to do with what you're talking about. And then they're just like, they'll try to just break you apart. Say, oh, you don't know this, or what about that? I'm like, none of that really matters, because at the end of the day, you not getting the results that are required of you. You don't know how to do this. I never forget, as a literacy coach, I had a teacher who didn't understand the difference between a simile and a metaphor, and then got an attitude because I pointed out to her and explained it to her. So you sitting here misteaching. I'm telling you that you're wrong. I didn't like coming and doing it in front of the student, in front of the class. I pull you to the side. I can't believe you took my prep time to call me out. You know, people make mistakes. And then here comes the tears. Yes, people make mistakes. But I expect if you are teaching figurative language, you know what the hell it is before you get in front of the class. That's not a mistake. That's incompetence. Hell, that's malpractice. And I'm just calling you out and letting you know, and helping you and giving you, heck, I gave you a whole PowerPoint. But you know, I'm not going to go there today. So if a black teacher who is doing well, who you know has the skill set, they have all the things going for them. Because that's the other thing. I'll get asked all types of questions. Oh, ask me about my degrees. Ask me about my license. At my admin job, I actually put my teaching licenses on my office wall, because that was questioned like I was making it up. Like, who the hell makes up having 5 licenses when you can just go to the Department of Education website and put my name in it and see if that's true? Like, who's going to lie about that? I just don't understand. So stop questioning black women and our excellence. Stop being jealous of us. And if you want to get on our level, put in the work. It's that simple. Or come and ask us, because most of the time we're pretty nice about it. We will help you out. Well, you too busy getting an attitude and crying all the time to get some help. That's on you.